So we figured out there's an even better way to do expires time and a better way to give the data to pass the payload to the sign method. So let's go and change that for a sec. So I'm just going to grab this second portion here. So we're going to add that to our sign as an argument to the sign method. And then instead of doing all this junk, guess what we can do now? Now this reads, oh my god, this reads so much better. Let's just put all this on one line. That's how easy it is to read. Let's see. Right? Oops. Okay. There you go. There we go. All right. Now we're cooking. Is this better now? So we're using the JWT sign method. The first argument is the payload, right? The data you want in your token. The second argument is the secret from the server, the passphrase. The third argument is configurations for the token. How long do you want this token to last? Okay? So now, if I go over to Postman and sign back in with Harry Potter, I still get this token, but now it should look a little different when I decode it. Right? So instead of having data and all that stuff, it literally just has everything in the payload. And it did all the math for us, so we didn't have to do this math. Okay? So now that we generated a token when you log in, our next step is to have some kind of authentication that is going to look at the request, check for a token, and then decode that token and say that it's a valid token. So it's going to happen here. It's going to happen in this authenticate method, right? So we need to bring in JWT, and we need to bring in the secret. Okay, I'm bringing in JWT and the secret. In this authenticate method, I'm going to check on the headers to see if a token was passed. Okay, so where's my code? I left it here. Right here. So this is generating the token for us. This is sending the token back. Here's the middleware. Here we go. So we want to check for a token. So we're checking to see if there's a token somewhere, okay, in any of these three locations. Is there a token on the body? Let's check there. Is there a token as a param, right, in the URL? Or is there a token on the headers as x-axis token? So we're checking three different places to see if this token exists. And we're saving it to this variable called token. And then, if there is a token, we're going to start decoding this token. Let me just grab it up to here. So is there a token? Let's verify that this token is correct. And the verify method takes in three arguments: the token itself, the secret from the server, and a callback function. And the callback function is going to do the checking for us, right? It's going to say it either failed to decode or it did decode, and here's the data. So let's check it. So we need the token. So the first argument's the token. Second argument's the secret. The third argument is a callback, which had error and decoded. Decoded, we'll just make it long so we know what it is. Decoded token. Okay? And then now we're going to say, did this token decode correctly? So if error, oh, I forgot to tell you guys about this status stuff. We're going to send back return res.status 403 means forbidden, and we're going to send this object that says you were not successful and you can't authenticate the token. So meaning maybe the token expired, who knows what it was. It didn't work, right? We can even do this here. Okay? I don't think we need return here. If there's no error, then we're going to send back the response, or sorry, we're going to attach decoded to the request, and we're going to proceed on to the next route that they want to go to. Else, we can't find the token, so forget about it. Which is, I believe, this else. All right? Let me put step 2. Yeah. So our first step is find the token. Our second step is to decrypt the token, or decode the token. Okay, so this is step 2. Decode the token with the server secret. If the token failed to decode somehow, we're going to send back this message. If it didn't error out, then we're going to attach the decoded token to the request object as decoded, and we're going to move on to the next route. Make sense? Let's try it. I don't know why I put returns here. I wonder why. Let's see. Interesting. All right, so now I'm going to try to make a request to my get all movies. Let's see what happens. Where did I put it? Here it is. No token provided. Right? There's no token, so you can't even look at my movies. Forget you. Right? But I have a token over here. Right? I have this token. Let's attach it. What are the 3 places I can attach a token to based off of this code? Where can I send the token?
To the body, to the params, or the
headers. So this is the preferred method. The preferred method is to send it through the headers. Okay? So what do I mean by that? When I send a request, go. It's just there, bro. See this headers? I have a headers object. I'm going to say x.access-token, right? And sometimes you'll see this called bearer token. It's whatever you want to call it. Okay, so this is the header key, which I am creating here. And then the value is going to be the token. Make sense? So now I'm going to try this request again. Oh, can't authenticate the token. Invalid token. Uh-oh. I think it's a string. Let's try it. Boom, there it is. Now let me pass. Do we see that? So again, I'm not going to send the token. See what happens. No token provided. Great. I can't pass. It's not letting me look at the movies. I put the token there. But let me mess it up. I'm going to take some characters off. Right? I'm going to send it. Oh, can't authenticate token. Here's the error message. Invalid token. Right? That means your token that you sent me is not valid. If it was past the expiration date, that message would say what? Token invalid, past expiration, or whatever the message is for past the expiration date. But if I paste in the correct, let's go back and grab it. I already lost it. If I paste in the right token, now I can see all my movies. Any questions? I know why. Can anybody figure out why it's not letting me log in anymore? So look, this was working earlier, but now I need a token to log in. How am I ever going to freaking log in? What's stopping it? This is the message I'm getting, right? So that means this function is running. But look at my users routes. My users routes, I'm trying to log in. I don't see authenticate anywhere. I'm not authenticating on the user route, right? In my movies routes, I am authenticating. Where are the two places that I'm authenticating in my user routes or my movie routes?
Yeah, right there. Oh, we got that movie star right there. Yes, it goes everything under.
Everything under. So where are my routes now being injected?
Everywhere.
On the server, movies is first. Do you see now? Movies is the first set of routes, so that means any route that comes after, even though the authenticate is in my movies router, right? When I define it, so how do I fix this? Right? Bam, there's my token. Okay? So that was a super tricky one, because even though it was in a separate file, when I'm creating the routes and applying the routes on my server, the movies routes came first, right? So that meant any route after those also had the authentication middleware. Okay, so now I have the token, and I want to go find a single movie now. Where did I put that single movie? Here it is. I want to put the token in here. Let me pass. Boom, now I can see the single movie. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. Let's go to the models. I had to first generate a model so I can create users in my application, right? We added validations to the user model properties, which is email and password. Then we said, well, it's not safe to store the string of the password directly in the database. So we need to encrypt it somehow. So we brought in this bcrypt library. And then before the user was created in our database, we used the bcrypt library to create a hashed password, which we then saved on the current user and stored it in the database. Then we needed to create a method for the documents that verifies they gave me the correct password, right? So here's the argument. Again, we grab the current user, we compare the text password with the stored encrypted password, and then we return an object based off of if it was a valid password that they gave me. We use these methods in our user routes. So this is to create a user, right? And this is to log in. So when we create a new user, we take everything from the body and we attempt to save it. Once the user is created in our database, you should now be able to log in. So when you log in, we take your email and the password that you entered in the form. We find a user by the email. If the user exists, let's verify their password, which should save that object in the DB response variable. Then we're checking, is that response valid? If it is valid, let's create a token for the user. And the create token method is up here, which takes in the user object. And this is called the object destructor in ES6. So we're taking in a user object, right? Here's a user object. And we're saying only give me the email and last name. Don't give me everything else. I only want those two fields. And we're creating a token here, giving it 3 arguments. The first one is the payload, the data that I'm going to need for that specific user, which is just going to come straight from the argument, right? The second is the secret passphrase that my server creates, which is in the config file. And then the third argument are any settings you want to add to the token. So I want this token to expire in an hour. This thing returns a string that looks like this, right? The encoded string. So that jwt.sign method returns something that looks like that, which then gets applied to the value here as the token. So now that gets sent back to the client, which is what we see in Postman when we log in, which is down here. Here's the token, and here's that value in Postman. Now, if they are unsuccessful at verifying their password, then we're just going to tell them that they did something wrong. Their password is incorrect. And if there is no user found, we're just going to say, hey, there's no user. Like, we didn't find a user, right? There's no user with your email, right? So that's for logging in. So now we're able to generate a token. The next step was authorization. So don't get confused with authentication versus authorization. Authentication is validating who you are and giving you that token. That's authentication. Authorization is, are you allowed to access these specific routes, right? Because maybe you are a logged in user, but maybe only an admin can go to these specific routes. Maybe this is like the admin panel, where you can see everything or something, right? That's authorization. So what we're saying here in the movies routes is we create this authenticate method, which looks for a token in 3 different locations. This is the preferred method of sending a token. which looks in the headers for the key of X access token. If a token exists, let's try to decode the token with our current server secret. And we do that by using the verify method. And the verify method takes in as a first argument the token, the second argument the secret, and then a callback function. The callback function checks to see if there was an error while it was decoding the token. If there is an error, let's send the forbidden status code and send back this object that will have the error message attached to it. If not, if there isn't an error, then that means they were successful at decoding the token. Let's add that to the request, decoded token, and then proceed to the next location that they wanted to go to. So now if I wanted to, in my movies controller.getAll, where is it? Here. Get all, right? I can see, let me show you. Rec.decoded is here. So this is decoded token info now. So let's go and make a request really quick. Where was it? I think I had it over here somewhere. Right here. I'm going to send this over. I should still see all this Star Wars stuff, but on the server, here's my decoded token. Where is it? Oh, right here. There it is. So in between routes, I can verify, right? Is this person an admin? Maybe I only want admins to be able to even view this, or maybe I need the user information to add to favorites, right? Maybe I have a /favorites URL, /movies/favorites that I'm going to go to and pull from that user. We'll do this stuff tomorrow, okay? So let's go back, or user routes. Oh no, movies, sorry. And if there's no token, let's just send back, hey, there's no token provided. You need a token to look at this stuff, right? Cool, so that's basic authorization and authentication, right? In a nutshell, on the server. Notice our client, we don't have anything on the client yet, right? This is all through Postman. So there's a separate part of this where we're going to verify on the client as well. So we haven't got to that yet, but we will get to that the next few days.